Today, we have a very important message to deliver. You should never use a travel portal in almost any circumstance. They are a scam. Today, we're going to talk about it. My name is Sean, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherwin. On today's episode of the Credit Card to BS podcast, we're going to talk about why travel portals are mostly a scam. So many credit cards will offer you great multipliers for booking travel through your portal. 10x on hotels, rental cars, I've seen 8x, I've seen 5x for booking flights. Now, does this mean it's a better deal to book through them rather than booking directly since you're getting a higher rebate from your credit card? Now, here's the problem. You're almost always worse off booking your travel through a travel portal rather than directly with the provider despite these higher multipliers. And why? Sean, why don't we get into that immediately?
So it's a fundamental problem with the way online travel agencies and travel portals operate as a business. Essentially, they are this weird form of payment processing where what happens is they are aggregators, right? So for people to book travel, they usually just go to their favorite travel site because it has everything on there. But what happens is these travel aggregators go, hey, hotel, we give you a ton of business. And because we give you a ton of business, we earn a huge commission, or we deserve a huge commission. And so they end up taking 20, 30% of the hotel rate off the top that the hotel isn't getting. They take a smaller percentage for airline rates. And what happens is, right, their argument is we're providing this big service, but they're not. The only reason they're providing this big service is because they're so ubiquitous. And because since everyone expects every travel portal to have every hotel, they all need to have every hotel. And every hotel needs to be on all these travel portals because otherwise they lose a huge amount of business. And so a huge portion of the rate ends up going to these, third parties. And what happens is the hotels and the airlines, well, mainly the hotels, go, well, this rate, because you're paying this stupid commission to this travel agency, and it's like you're on the service paying the same rate, but we're getting a whole lot less of it. We're going to treat you much worse than most of our other members, right? And what happens is now you also have this middleman you have to deal with for when things go wrong. You missed your flight. You want to change your flight. Things like that. It just becomes more of a headache because you now, instead of contacting the travel provider directly, in this case, the airline or the hotel, you now need to contact this weird middleman who then needs to contact them on your behalf. Now, in some cases, in some weird cases, yes, maybe it can be fine and it could, work out. But in most cases, it's better, I have an issue with the hotel. Let me just talk to the hotel chain. Let me just talk to the hotel, where, you'll be much better off if you just book direct.
Yeah. And, hotels often just treat third-party bookings with a lot of annoyance because of the extra fees and commissions they're giving out. So they'll just kind of give you the minimal amount of service compared to if you're booking direct, lowest priority. If a member books directly on a particular type of room and a non-member uses one of these portals, which is treated like hotels.com or a kayak booking, a third-party booking, they'll still give you the worst room. Even a standard room is not created equal. The number of times I've been assigned to a second floor room facing the dumpster in the back is what I've booked through one of these portals is so much higher, and it almost never happens when I book direct, but when I use a portal, it's considered lower priority. Also, even if you have elite status with the hotel and you put in your number, that's not going to be recognized. You're treated as if you had no status at all. You're not going to be able to earn elite night credits towards status if you're using a third-party booking. Even if you're booking with Chase or Citi or Capital One, right? It's considered third-party. Now, there are exceptions with flights where sometimes it can work, but with hotels generally, they don't make any exceptions for this. And in most cases, the extra points earning from the travel portal would have just been earned by booking through the hotel program directly because they do give you points on your spend there. So it's not that big of a benefit.
I agree. I think the smarter move is to definitely just book through the hotel. Just a really smart move is to check out our YouTube memberships down below, where you can get even more value from our podcast and from our content. But of course, there are exceptions in when it can make sense to book through a portal. But what's funny about it is pretty much all the exceptions, the problems we're describing are because these bookings are considered third party. They're considered lower priority. The main exceptions come when you can book through portals which aren't considered third party, which seems like an oxymoron, but it actually exists a lot. And the main examples of this are premium hotel portals like American Express Fine Hotels and Resorts, Chase the Edit, the new Citi Premium Hotel Collection, the Capital One Premium Hotel Collection, any of these portals where you're receiving additional perks on top of what you would normally get. these bookings, in the vast majority of cases, are considered by the hotel to be direct bookings, meaning not only will you get all these perks as described on the portal, but you are also permitted to attach your loyalty number so you can earn points and receive status benefits from the hotel. And what's really interesting actually is it's actually flipped, where these type of bookings are often considered more premium and a higher priority than hotels book direct, or like bookings directly with the hotel. Where if I go book, let's say, to a Park Hyatt and I book a standard rate versus through Hyatt directly and I'm a globalist, versus I go on Amex FHR and book it and I attach my Hyatt globalist number, the FHR booking will actually in most cases be considered a higher level booking and thus more important for like a higher room upgrade. There's also the thing I should note though is you don't necessarily have to book through a portal to have these premium perks. You can book through premium travel advisors, people that can do like virtuoso rates, Hyatt Privé rates, etc. Actually, we'll leave a link in the description. I can help with those if someone wants to book one of those. But basically, these rates can also provide the same level of perks as these premium portals. So in either case, doing that, if, assuming the rate is the same, is going to usually be a better option than booking direct. But of course, the real message here is don't book on some like random portal. Like don't use Amex Travel, don't use Expedia, don't use booking.com, because none of those will provide you, the same priority of how important your rate is.
Yeah. Now, Sean, how would you think about if someone says, "Oh, the rate on one of these websites or on like a portal is lower than booking direct"? How would you approach that analysis?
That is a very good question. And I would have a few kind of diverging branch thoughts on this. So, one, I think the first thing I would look into is like, is that rate that I see on the third party site, would I be able to do a rate match to a direct hotel rate? Because a lot of these chains advertise best rate guarantees, where if you find a lower rate from a third party website, the hotel will actually match it and even beat it, usually with some extra perk, right? Maybe 20% off, maybe some points. Now, a lot of times it is more of a marketing gimmick and it doesn't work that well because they have a lot of exceptions. I have actually done it myself before successfully and it worked out very well. So I would look into that and see if like, look, is this something that is possible to do? And if not, let's say it's just not the case, I would weigh your options, because I'm not going to pretend that there is no case I would book through a portal. Let's say a hotel is $500 a night direct through the hotel and $200 a night through the portal, and I'm confident in the portal provider. I'm going to book through the portal, okay? I like my elite benefits. I don't like them $300 a night. So it depends on the circumstance, but usually I would say, okay, what is going to be my points earning differential? How much money am I saving? Is there some weird stipulation with the portal rate? Is it non-refundable? And then I would also weigh like the points earning and elite benefits and the priority. Because if it's a minor difference, if we're talking about, let's say, $250 a night versus $275 a night, I'm booking direct for the extra $25 a night, right? Just to not have the dumpster view. That's probably worth it to me. Of course, it's your mileage may vary and will depend on exceptions, because there are definitely cases where that can happen. But it's just like, weigh your options, see if using like AAA or something with the direct hotel provider will match the rate, see if they'll match it. That would be my advice there.
I think the refundability point is very important. For a lot of these hotel portals, their rates seem cheaper, but if you look into it, they're all like non-refundable prepay rates. Whereas going through the directly, sometimes you can book member rates that are refundable. And even if you think that the non-refundable rate is much cheaper, keep in mind like these rates fluctuate, right? So if you're booking a refundable rate and the rate drops, you can cancel and rebook. Whereas if you've chosen a non-refundable rate, you've forgone that option entirely. So it's also a risk in a sense to book a non-refundable rate, even if it might seem cheaper upfront.
Yes, and that's like even the case. Like you could be 100% confident that you're not going to cancel. You could say, look, I don't care if I'm sick, I have to be here. There's still the risk though, because it's like, well, if the rates drop, I can benefit, as you said, like with a refundable rate, I can just like rebook it at like a lower price, but I can't do that at a non-refundable rate.
Now, what about like non-chain affiliated hotels? Then I think actually, there might be use cases where the cost is usually less to book through the portal directly. Especially if you have doubts on the provider. And another exception I would say is like flights. You can usually stack elite benefits and mileage earnings. So there actually isn't as big of a disadvantage of booking through a portal for flight compared to a hotel. But, if something goes wrong, it's much more difficult to change your flight. You might be, you need to be prepared to be stuck in this ping pong between the customer service of the portal, customer service of the airline, Because one of them will probably tell you they can't fix your problem. You have to go to the other person, and the other person will say the same, and you won't be helped. I've seen so many horrible stories on this online. I'm like not really exaggerating, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's one of these things where it's like it's kind of a silly business model where it's the service ends up being this like zero sum game where yes, like the idea is in a vacuum you have one, let's say, travel aggregator, and then there's a huge value add there because now it's like everyone can go to this one aggregator to book the travel. You can bring tons of business to all these hotels. But now we have like all these aggregators, it's like an expectation. And so it's really just like there's no added value fundamentally that a service like Expedia or Booking.com provides to anyone. It's a factor of convenience. And yes, you can argue that that is a lot of value, but my counter would be like, it's not any easier really to book through a platform like Expedia than going to Marriott. It's more of like by habit. And so these services take so much commission. It's ridiculous, especially as far as hotels go. And it's something that because of this, people get a worse experience. And it's why I'm against the business model because I don't like how people are paying the same price for what I would call an objectively worse experience. And so our rant here is basically just be smart about it, book direct. Of course, there's exceptions, do your research, but in the vast majority of cases, booking direct with a provider is going to be a smarter and wiser.
Yeah. I mean, I partially agree and partially disagree with the industry of OTAs is silly because like I think for us where we're focused on the hotel game, like really understanding the elite perks and like caring a little more about the treatment we receive based on the elite perks, like yeah, portals are silly, don't make sense. But for like most Americans or like casual travelers, these portals are what enable the hotel to be discoverable by people who are not necessarily going to Marriott.com or Hyatt.com or Hilton.com to do their initial search, right? They just want to see the most number of options, most convenient way possible. And yeah, like the hotel does have to pay that cost to provide that for that service provided, which is the discoverability. I do think these portals provide the hotel value in this sense.
That's a fair point. I guess my main, I don't know, I think like I would concede definitely on like smaller third party hotels, there definitely have to be more reliant because if you're a third party hotel, like it is really hard to be discoverable compared to the big chains. I think my main gripe is on the consumer side of how, from a consumer's perspective, in the most case, right, you're paying the same price and receiving a worse service. That's the part that really does bother me. Where if it was the case that like hotels treated the bookings the same, I'm not saying they should, I'm just saying like if that was the case, it wouldn't bother me so much because then it's like I'm paying the same price. Yes, the hotel's eating it, but they're getting value at least from the discoverability. But now it's like from the consumer's end, it's like, wow, I just get a worse experience.
But let
But
me
I
ask
think
you
that's a
this.
really good point. Yeah.
What's the strategy then if you need to use the portal because of some credit you have from a credit card? So I'm thinking like the City Strata Elite hotel credit, Venture X portal travel credit, etc., where these credits are limited to the portal and not to just any travel purchase. How would you use
That's a
these?
very good question. I would say first priority use through the premium hotel portal, assuming that it's like a card that has one, because that I would say I'm receiving better benefits by booking through that portal. The second priority for me, if I can't do that, would be to try to use it for flights because the opportunity cost is much lower. Ideally, flights that are like single direct flights. I wouldn't necessarily love it when I'm like, hey, I've got this ticket that's like on two separate airlines with like an hour layover. That wouldn't be ideal. But if it's like I'm flying from LAX to JFK on a Sunday off season, yeah, like totally fine. Like, so premium hotel portals, flights, and then everything else kind of down here below.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. So, what are your thoughts about travel portals? Do you love them or hate them? Let us know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, a great way to support our channel is to try one of our new membership tiers. Down below, you can join very easily and access some really exclusive perks and where we share things that like other people don't necessarily know about. And Sean, why don't you plug our Discord?
Yes, if you want to connect with an elite group of credit card enthusiasts and award travelers entirely for free, check out the Travel Lane Discord group at the link in the description. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.